Hello everybody, welcome back to Cinema Savvy. It is myself, George, bringing a brand new review, and today I'm going to be reviewing Hitman, which of course is now streaming on Netflix worldwide, starring Glen Powell and directed by Richard Linklater, and the pair of them did do the screenplay as well, and I'm very excited to talk about this film. It's a film that I've been looking forward to seeing for a very, very long time. For those unfamiliar, this was back at the festival circuit. I think it premiered at Venice, it was at London Film Festival, and then Netflix picked up the rights, and the rest is history. Lack of cinema releases, put online on Friday, all that usual stuff. I'm going to talk about that, but before I get into my thoughts on the film, I do want to hear from you. If you've seen it this weekend, please do comment your thoughts. If you've been able to see it at the cinema, I'm really curious about anyone that might have had screenings near them, so please let me know your thoughts on seeing it there too. And as well, if you want to find out about other videos we're working on, go get us on social medias, linktree.com/cinemasavvy, and I'll link you to our Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and Letterboxd. But I am here to give my thoughts. I have finished watching the film today, in the middle of a Lord of the Rings marathon, which is a very weird interjectory to watch a film such as this, but safe to say going in, I was excited. I'm a big fan of Glen Powell. I guess he's in that like Austin Butler territory of you just sort of can't help but not like him. He has that natural charisma. Every time you see him in an interview, he just comes across not incredibly charming, but very funny, very natural, and by my standards, I feel like he's an old school Hollywood star, the same as an Austin Butler type, and I want to see him in more and more films. I've still not seen the one of him and Sydney Sweeney from last year, but of course we've got Twisters coming out in a few weeks' time. Even Top Gun Maverick's getting re-release in a couple of weeks for one day in the UK, which is really random. So the Summer of Powell, if we will, to make an in-depth wrestling joke on the Summer of Punk. If that ever happens again, who knows? But wrestling thoughts aside, yes, my initial thoughts is I like this film. But I want to talk about a couple of things I didn't know, and this isn't really a spoiler per se. Apparently it was all over the marketing. I avoided the trailers for this. I saw the posters to do the thumbnail for today. I've kept so far away from this because I'd heard so many great things from people I know, people I trust that do videos. Ren Geekness had seen it, I think, at Venice, and he'd spoke about it back then. Not to be confused with Pullman, which is another film people have spoke about for very different reasons. But I have been in the know in the sense of I'm going to avoid it so I can see it. And I guess a blessing of Netflix not pushing cinema releases is this wasn't on at the cinema to see the trailer over and over and over again. I was able to put on Netflix today, watch the film, 1 hour, 55 minutes, and it's done. And here I am talking about the film now. So not ideally great for marketing, I guess, but great for me to go in blind because I thought this was a film about an actual hitman. Which was a very pleasant surprise that that's not the film, that instead we had this, I can't even really call it a comedy or a drama. At times it feels like a sort of adult-rated rom-com, a crime thriller as such. It's of course Glen Powell playing somebody that catches out people that are trying to hire hitmen to bump off loved ones, etc., etc. And I thought that idea was incredible. And I don't know if there's been films like this before, but the moment I sort of realised, hold on, this is going to be a little bit different to what I thought, I was sold even more. And how is he going to pull this off? How are we going to see these arrests? And with Richard Linklater films, I've not seen enough of them. I know his work varies so much. I mean, he did the animated film last year, of course, which was sort of semi-autobiographical. We've seen films such as School of Rock, and there's like the Before trilogy. His work is so incredibly varied. But the confidence in making this film, and the fact he's juggling so many projects at once, it felt so different to what I've seen of his work. Now, I've not seen everything of his, but there was something about this that jumped out. That his role in directing this, it felt so natural, and I read that there was based off real events, and they explain it a little bit in the credits too, that it was borrowed from a real story, not the whole thing, of course. They changed some of it, but I loved this concept, and to see Glen Powell get a writing credit as well really caught me off guard, because like everything else I've seen him in, he has this aura when you're watching him on the screen. He's so effortlessly charming. So when he's playing these ridiculous, variated characters of Ron, it's very funny, but at the same time, he makes it work. There's even a weird Tilda Swinton lookalike one, and it shouldn't work, but it does. I think you do that to 90% of actors. The joke's not going to work, but it did in this case, and I thought it was absolutely hilarious. But at the same time, as bringing the drama, you need to get to the stakes. We can't just have this repetitive comedy, and of course, that's where Arjona comes into it, who I didn't realise was in this film. I mainly knew her from being in Andor, of course. I know she's been in a few other films. I think she's got another film or two coming out later this year, and she's superb in this. The chemistry they have with one another It is quite something, and I know that Glen Powell can do that with certain actors and actresses, as we've seen in the past, but these two as leads, I absolutely loved, and them going on this somewhat journey. I guess I'm not going to spoil it for those that haven't seen it that do want to watch it, but the pairing of them works so well. You kind of want more from them, that you could just imagine just sitting by watching them, and they have this beautiful relationship in a twisted way that pans out over probably an hour's worth of the film. And I kind of love what they do. There are stakes in there and there are moments, and I just have to credit the script and the story. I mentioned about the directing that I think it's very well done, but ultimately it's the environment and what sort of comes with it. And it's hard trying to summarise this. I literally finished watching this about 10-15 minutes ago, but there is something different about this film to other films I've seen. Now, I don't just want to harp on Netflix because that's a little bit unfair, but this film was picked up, but has got a home on streaming. Is it the kind of film that would have done well at the cinema? We don't know. Again, I've not seen the trailers. I don't know what they put out, what they market it with, but you know, we've seen so many times recently some of these films that get released and no one goes to see it. Is this a film that could do very well being at home, being on Netflix for everybody to see? I really don't have the answers. But I do want to add, and I always moan about this, certainly with streaming films, it's very frustrating, and it's happening more with Netflix. We've seen Apple do wide releases for films in the last couple of years, but there's no way for someone like me to be able to watch this film. Now, I've not seen too many films recently with other stuff happening, but this is being shown in like very, very infrequent screening times in the middle of nowhere. I know it's independent cinemas, and if you live somewhere where there aren't any independent cinemas, you're kind of screwed. So it's really disappointing that there is no way to see this before it does drop onto Netflix. I know Netflix are very stuck in their ways, and I do feel like, I know Rich Linklater's worked with them before with the film from last year, but I do feel like with Glen Powell, he spoke so much about the cinema experience. People joke about him being one of Tom Cruise's disciples, the big screen experience. I kind of wish this had got a wide release. And I don't say it all the time. There's no certainly perk. It's not an action adventure. It's not needed for IMAX. It's not needed for sort of Dolby Atmos sound and whatnot. But I like to be in that cinema environment. I'd like to watch this with other people if there would be other people there to see it, because there are moments which I thought were just very funny. And I had a really nice time watching it. And I haven't really said that. I've not been watching too many films recently. There's a lot going on, so it's nice to sort of sit back, you know, not have to think too much, and then end up with this great story, very funny, entertaining story that sort of is going to live long in the memory. It's something I'm going to think about with Glen Powell films. I feel like I'm just talking about Glen Powell so much. I spoke about some of the performances, but if I'm being honest, I don't have masses to say on this. What I can say is that I think you should all go and see this film. If you have Netflix, it's probably on the homepage for you. It was added to my list, so it was automatically ready, but this is something I think is going to have somewhat of a cult following. This is a film I think that people will see, people remember, and maybe it's not going to be for everybody, but from the people I know and trust, they seem to have enjoyed it this weekend too, so it is one of them. I am recommending this film. The less you know about it, the better it is, and that's why I'm keeping this review a little bit shorter than normal today. So if this feels like a cop-out, that's not my intention. It is just, I want to get this review out there and get people talking about this film because I absolutely adored it. I cannot wait to see Twisters. I've not actually seen the original. I didn't even know Glen Powell was in it. The trailer played at the cinema a few weeks ago, and I saw Glen Powell's face. I'm like, okay, I'm in. It's Glen Powell hunting Twisters. I'm down. I want to see more from him, and I think he's one of these actors that's going to have this incredible Hollywood career, and I think this film absolutely nailed it. I can't wait to see more from him. And Rich Linklater too, I know he's working on, I think, another like 20-30 year film. I can't remember. I think it's a musical again. So yeah, Rich Linklater, there's always films in development. I always think of School of Rock. That's a film I grew up with. So this is my shorter review for Hitman. Do let me know what you thought. Please do comment, and if you want to see more on social media, you can do so. So take care, and we'll see you on the next one.